And they just went straight ahead and said, no, we don't accept that. It was laughable. Really, truly laughable. The judge was just exactly how you expect every pompous judge you've ever imagined. And that was the end of that. With the wave of his hand, found in favour of the corporation iPark Services. And I said, how do I appeal this? And he said, appeal denied. End of the hearing.
Hey folks, so it's Gavin here again from Sovereign Empowerment, and today I'm joined by a lovely lady called Lulu. Now, the reason I wanted to bring Lulu onto this call is she's just like us, and I think she's got a very empowering story that I think is very useful to those folks out there. And I know that you're out there, and I know that the numbers are now growing, whereby you're aware, you know something's wrong, things aren't right now, and you're feeling that literally at your front door. And it might be because you've got enforcement agents bothering you and harassing you, or whatever it may be, doesn't matter. But maybe there's this kind of scenario where you know what's going on is wrong now. You know you need to stand up, but maybe there's a little bit of fear holding you back. And maybe it's also a case of where on earth do you even start? And the reason I wanted to bring Lulu on is that we already know you just got to start, but I think it's always useful to hear other people's stories about what they're doing. Lulu's just had her first court appearances and they went well, actually. And so we want to talk about those too. So first of all, Lulu, thank you for your time and welcome to the channel. I wondered if you could just start very quickly, just letting people know who you are, and then we'll get into the conversation from there.
Okay, 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, I sold my house in Leighton Buzzard and left behind a previous life working in education. Moved to Grimsby, bought a house for cash with the proceeds of my previous house, and felt fantastic. I thought, new start, no debt, no 2 jobs, didn't have to work a 70-hour week anymore. Everything was hunky-dory. And then all of the nonsense happened. And so I found myself in March, having just started my new job, being made redundant.
No way.
Yeah, as they brought in lockdowns. And I missed furlough by 2 days. At that point in time, really was gutted. I wasn't awake to all of this, partially, but not really. More because my partner is quite wide awake and guns a-blazing with all of this and had been for years. But I was still very naive to it all, really. And I had to go on benefits. I looked for other work, but the situation being what it was, there was no work to be had. So I was forced to start living off my credit cards. And for the first sort of 6 months, I thought, it's no problem. I lived reasonably comfortably. I didn't worry too much. And I thought, I'll pay this off the minute this is all over. But as it rumbled on and on, I got in deeper. There was nothing else I could do. I couldn't do anything but get in deeper or not survive. I then revisited a video that Sean had made me watch years beforehand. And it was about debt and about fiat currency, Strawman and so on. It was with Dave Murphy, allegedly Dave. And it was a really compelling video. And at the time, it did blow my mind, but I just didn't think it applied to me. I didn't think I could apply it to my life. And so I just started revisiting that. And the knock-on effect of that was that I looked at other videos and I bought an online book called Diffusing the Debt Bomb, which in retrospect was a little bit gung-ho and a little bit not very well planned out, but it did make me feel powerful. It did give me a bit of an attitude of, yeah, up yours, why should we be bowing down to this slavery? And it was a bit of a call to arms for me, not partly because I needed to get myself out of the smelly stuff, but also because it is wrong. What they do is wrong. So I went with this book and I waited. I read it. I defaulted on my credit cards because I couldn't really afford to pay them anymore anyway. And I waited for them to sell my debts. And then I followed the validation of claim process, and I did the 3 letters, 3 notices, followed by an affidavit of truth, none of which were rebutted appropriately. They have no validation of claim. But of course, all the time I'm doing this, I'm thinking, what on earth am I doing? This is insane. I'm going to get in trouble here. But I found it a bit of an adventure. So that's how it started.
Brilliant. So do you find what I'm getting from that actually is that you're in this situation where, whatever's going on is going on and it's getting worse for you. So now you've got all this sort of debt. And then you're naturally just looking for some solutions, I'm guessing, and things are wrong. So there's that underlying emotion, if you like, that things are wrong. You're in this sort of debt. So now you're looking for solutions, right? So you bought this book. And I'm guessing from that book, and I know that book very well, actually. It's Robert, isn't it, from the Observation Deck? Great channel, by the way, folks. If you haven't ever seen that channel, I'll actually leave a link below this so you can go check it out. But back to the story. Was it a case then that when you're reading the book, you're getting this new knowledge, aren't you? So you're empowering yourself. And that, I think that in itself is what a lot of people that are maybe sitting on the fence are missing. It's that sort of worry, what do I do? Where do I start? When actually what you've done is you started reading books, and it was that started to give you the empowerment. So I can do something about it now. And then you started doing something about it.
Sorry. It also gave me, I want to just point out that it also gave me, I didn't really understand why I shouldn't feel guilty. I didn't understand. I'd got this money, I'd lived off of it, I bought things with it. And it gave me that real understanding of why I shouldn't feel guilty, that they haven't given me anything. There is no money.
That's a really good point.
Money. Because I think before that, I felt huge guilt and discomfort that I owed this money and that I had been disloyal, dishonest, that kind of thing.
That's actually a really good point, because I can liken this to my own journey as well, because we've still got to break the programming that we've been going through in the system. And I think part of that leads into why we can get scared and a bit fearful of the what ifs if we do this, because you're still relying on the old programming, when actually what you've done, and the idea is, if you read these books, there's wisdom and knowledge in the books, and it's that knowledge that gives you the ability to reconstruct your own reality into the truth. And I think once you're in that sort of that new reality of truth, you can't not be compelled to do something, because it's the only natural conclusion to knowing what you now know at that point. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not a case of overthinking what do you need to do. It's more a case of just simplifying that decision of, what book shall I read?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that the book that really, it was after my start in this journey, but it was a book that you recommend. The title is Unimportant by...
Oh, look at it. This wasn't planned, guys, but I just so happened to have it on my desk. So I'm going to show it.
And...
Isn't it? It's a great... I've never spoken to this guy. I don't know this guy, but I've read the book myself, and it's an amazing book, and I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, let me ask you, because I recommended this to you, and so you knew what your knowledge was like before it. What happened when you read that?
As I say, the guy, uni guys, the Robert Odeck book, his was very gung-ho. It was a little bit chippy and choppy, and there was lots of calling them the scum or scumbags, or it was quite aggressive, and the letters were quite aggressive. They were all a format of Old English. It was very aggressive, but it was also a little bit confusing as well. They didn't list legislation. They didn't do all of the things that were useful on a practical level. They gave you lots of information, but it was a little bit jumbled. The title is not important is clear as day. It's a good read for a start. It's a really good read. But he evidences everything he says. He evidences everything that he's pointing out to you. He does give you legislation that's useful. And he explains currency and the banking system and all of it really well. The business of you signing your contract, you handing them the contract, and they've therefore got the security instrument that they then sell on. I hadn't quite properly grasped that until I read that book.
And would you say that book then, I think it gives you a very solid foundational knowledge of what's really going on?
Yeah.
And when you know that, it obviously helps you when you start to litigate, doesn't it? When you start
Game
to go,
changer. Yeah. It's a game changer in your headspace. Mentally, it makes you think differently. It makes you think differently.
so you go through this process of, again, hopefully this is going to resonate with some people, that we're in that position of, okay, I'm aware things are bad. I think I need to do something. I don't know what I need to do. And I've got all these concerns about the what if, buts and maybes. And so what we're saying is, forget all of that. Don't overanalyze the situation. Just go start reading some books. And what we're recommending actually as a starter is that book. Because
Yeah.
once
Far
you
more so than the debt, diffusing the debt bond.
choosing a debt bond. And so it's really about, don't panic. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're worried about their time scale saying you've got X amount of days to comply. Just build your knowledge. And with knowledge comes the power. And so going back to your situation, you've just been to court a few times. And I know one of them was a PCN fine. So perhaps we can just talk about that as a starting point, because it's often a good place to cut your teeth. I call it. It's a good place to start.
Definitely. It's not dangerous. It doesn't, and everyone hates them. So
Yeah.
talk about it with other people and get their experiences without them thinking, oh God, you're just trying to get off your debt. You're trying to not pay your money. Everyone hates car park people, don't they?
They do.
Yeah. They sent me a notice and I stupidly replied and said, I did pay. I paid my 50 pence. I was within my hour and you'll have this evidence on your camera footage. You'll have, there's the car park's full of CCTV. So you'll have that all over the car park. And they just went straight ahead and said, no, we don't accept that. You owe £100 now, or we take you to court. So I ignored them. And that, again, another mistake, because they'd already started the process. So I got summons to court, and I said I was going to attend and would argue my case. And it was during lockdown. So it was a telephone hearing, and it was laughable. Really, truly laughable. The judge was just exactly how you expect every pompous judge you've ever imagined. Rude to both of us, fortunately. He was rude to their solicitor as well as me. But at the end of the first hearing, he basically said, you've got a witness. You need to bring your defence rests upon the source. He's just going to go and sort Sean out. And your defence rests on your witness statement, your witness testimony. And then during the second hearing, he refused Sean admittance to the hearing. And I said, but how, you can't possibly be doing that. That was don't interrupt me, Miss Ray. And that was the end of that. And he just literally, with the wave of his hand, found in favour of the corporation iPark services. And I said, how do I appeal this? And he said, appeal denied, end of the hearing. So I then requested transcripts and got all of that in order. And
can I just interrupt you? Just want to go through, because there's a lot of people here that will be listening to that thinking, that's not a great advertisement for standing on your rights. So what was going through your mind? You've read the books, you're empowered enough to go and do something about it. You've gone to your first sort of experience in court and it's gone completely the wrong way. And I don't know did you have this sort of naive view of how it would be, or were you expecting what you received?
I was expecting what I received. In fact, it was as good. I thought we had the preliminary hearing. And I thought, yeah, this is going to go okay. At least I've got a voice. At least I can say stuff. And then on the actual hearing, I was blown away by how awful it was. But I was furious. I knew it was wrong. And I knew I was right. So I was determined it wasn't going to end there.
So it was the anger of what had happened.
Yeah,
the injustice that compelled you to go further. And I just want to make this point, guys, because when you're in a situation like that, and you've been railroaded and even permission to appeal has been denied, this is where a lot of people will then just give up and say, oh, that's that. The whole thing's corrupt. I can't win and I'm just going to roll over. I think this is the key moment where it separates those that do versus those that don't. Those that get the wins, those that basically just disappear and just get run over for the rest of their lives. And it's this point, because you were angry about the injustice of it all, that you carried on. Now, normally when the permission to appeal is denied, that's where most people give up. So what did you now do next?
I went online and looked how to appeal. Then I got a letter, one of the court letters stating that it had found it against me. And the notes on the back state you can appeal if and only if and there have been some serious procedural irregularities, or another one, but I knew that was a serious procedural irregularity. So I wrote to the court within the 7 days allowed, and was then given an appeal hearing in Hull. Went to that. The judge was bemused, really. She didn't quite understand. And she said, "So your partner was in the house?" And I said, "Yeah." And I'd got all of the transcripts already, so nobody could really lie about. They couldn't fluff over what had happened. I'd already ordered all the transcripts. I'd also recorded it, even though I was supposed to. But I figured it was in my house. I'll record what I like. And I just appealed, and she agreed to give me leave to appeal. So then the next hearing was with their solicitor, and he just said, "I can't imagine why they're fighting the appeal. I can't imagine what was going on with the judge in the initial hearing." He was really just on our side. He was supportive of me, really. I think that's one of the things I did learn, is that if they haven't got a chance of winning, or they don't think there's a chance of winning, solicitors for the other side couldn't care less, really. They don't make that much effort. But she granted the appeal, and then the hearing was a month or so later in Grimsby. And they just lied through their teeth. They brought up evidence that was ridiculous. It wasn't dated. And the judge just said, he basically went on for a long time, but he said, "This is ridiculous. How can you haven't proved that she didn't pay? You haven't proved anything. You've got all this silly." They'd got a photograph of, and the solicitor was saying, "No, my client claims that during the whole of COVID lockdowns, that the machines were taped up in the black insulation wrapping. They were wrapped up during the whole of COVID." I knew it was an absolute lie because I had put my money in. So when the judge asked if I had to say, I just said, "That's an absolute lie. The machines weren't wrapped up. I did put my money in. This is my statement of truth. I stand here in my truth. And that piece of evidence isn't even dated. So how can it possibly be in any way evidence that I didn't pay?" And he agreed, and then talked for about 20 minutes. And that was the end of that. And I walked out with a big smile on my face.
And that was your first win. Which folks would not have happened had she just accepted the first ruling and just accepted that the whole thing was corrupt and there's nothing you can do. The trick to winning is always keep moving forward. Never let their no's be your reason to stop. If you know you're right and you know that all the facts support you and what you're saying is true, then I don't know if you think the same way, actually, Lulu, but I feel like, especially at this moment in time, when we know we're in tyranny, we know what's going on. It's like you have a duty to yourself, because if you're not standing, then what on earth are you doing when you see these things happening these days and you're not prepared to do anything about it, even for yourself? I think there's a serious question you need to be asking about yourself. But that aside, I think you've got a duty to your loved ones. You've got a duty to your children, if you have your children, and you've got a duty to your fellow brothers and sisters out there that are also standing and doing what we need to do. Because it's this moment in time, I think, that if we don't do this now, then there won't be that future where we can even do this. That's how bad this stuff is getting. So, sorry, please, I know you want to say.
I was just going to say, somebody has to do it first, don't they?
Exactly.
You do it first and you fall. It doesn't matter. You do it again. And the more you do it, the more other people will be less afraid to do it.
And also, the more you do it, the less, what's the word I'm looking for? The system has no fear, because you see it for what it is. And in your own experience, you can actually win. It's corrupted, correct, but the foundational elements of it, that the courts are there for the people. As long as you know how to use the courts and do things properly, and you keep to facts and procedure rules and everything like that, then you will get your win. So let's bring that into the next case, because this is an interesting one for me.
That's why you came in, keeping it, getting that confidence. Our calls, and Sean, I did, before I went to court for the parking case, just thought, "Oh, I'm making a mistake. What am I doing?" And Sean was saying, "Shut up, we're going, come on." He sat over there, he just got here.
Yeah, that's also natural, I think. It's important to actually address that for people, because the law doesn't allow for emotion, but we are emotional beings, and it's natural to be emotional as you go through it. And there's all sorts of emotions that go through. And I think no one actually really talks about that, do they? But it's something that has to be managed, because, like you say, if I don't know if Sean wasn't there, other folks weren't there, you might have actually thought, you know what, I probably won't go.
I think
you know,
backed out.
and if you'd have done that, you wouldn't have got you in.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a case of also, this is how I deal with it anyway, because I go through those emotions and I've learned to just ignore it and just focus on the intent of what I want as the outcome. And if that's the only thing that I'm giving energy to, then by default, at some point, that's the only thing that's going to happen for me. It doesn't matter what happens on the way to getting that outcome. And again, you can actually use Lulu's situation for that. The first hearing didn't go well at all, but she carried on and she got her win. So you didn't lose sight of the outcome. And justice and truth is on your side.
Yeah. Also, another thing that I found really helped me in the courage department of walking into the courtroom, as well as having Sean, was being really well prepared. I'd got notes. I'd got the legislation I wanted to refer to. I'd written my speech, if you like, my script, and I knew it pretty to heart, knew it really well. Most questions weren't shocking to me. I was quite comfortable, just really done my homework, only on the very small specific things. But nonetheless, it made me feel a bit more confident, just knowing that it was in my head, not that I would have to look it up and panic about what I needed to say.
So you put the time in to prepare, to know your stuff, so that you weren't sideswiped, in that hearing.
Yeah.
Moving that then into the other case, because that was running parallel at the same time, wasn't it? Yeah. This was slightly different. So you just explain to people what happened there and why you brought this case.
This was very much on following the Diffusing the Debt Bomb book. And
so you're still in your gung-ho kind of state of mind with this stuff.
Yeah. And then at the end of all of the 3 notices, the affidavit, then the rebutted affidavit, I sent a renewed one. And then I sent a certificate of default, and it was all very officious, ridiculously so coming from me. But I did keep it to the letter. It was really officious. And then I sent them a bill for my time. And I'd informed them of my fee schedule. The very first letter I sent them, the first letter was free, and then I'd informed them of my fee schedule. And I'd all the way through asked them to validate their claim against me, and they couldn't, they wouldn't. And if they could have done, they certainly would have done with the first reply, wouldn't they? So this went on, rambling on for 6-7 months. And then we got a court date, a preliminary hearing court date. And I went in there, and it was all about, I'd got it about the fact that they owed me this money because I'd spent my time. And the judge basically agreed that they had no claim. He said, but they haven't sued you. You're suing them and you've got no contract. That was the argument. So I was woefully underprepared for the thing that I needed to be prepared with, which was, why should they agree to pay me that money? Not why don't I owe them the money? That was what I'd got watertight. I'd really got that watertight. I knew exactly why I didn't owe them the money, but I had not a clue why they owed me other than a tacit agreement, which I put in my letter. Lesson learned. My next move, learn about contract laws, tacit, unspoken, whatever, and find out why they owe me the money, and then maybe do it again if they start again.
What I think is brilliant about that, and again, this is the message I want to get out to you folks, is that you had a go. You just went for it. Yep. And that's the main point, is just do something. Don't overthink what you're doing, just do it. And in doing that, how much more have you learned by doing that versus not doing it at all, overthinking it and just not doing it? Would you say it was the best thing you did to actually do something about it and even get that situation in the court?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Confidence building.
Yeah.
I really learned the legislation. I didn't want to go in there unprepared for that. I now know that I don't owe them the money. Absolutely categorically know that they haven't got legs. They've got no teeth where I'm concerned.
So as a side note to that, then, if anyone else was to bring a claim for alleged debt, you're in a really good position because of what you did. And even though it didn't go to plan, you now know how to defend those types of claims.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So there's always, I guess the message there is that there aren't really any losses when you actually commit to this type of journey, because it's only learning. And often I find, I don't know about you, but when you have a loss in these different situations, it's the biggest learning experience of all.
Yeah, absolutely. Not least, it was a bit of a win anyway, because they didn't award them costs, which was lovely for me. And it would have cost them a significant sum of money to be defending it, to be writing the letters, to be having. They were all solicitors' letters that they were writing back to me. That was 6 months of them having to employ people. There were three hearings that they had to attend.
So you gave me, think about that though, right? You gave them a run for their money. That was a costly exercise for them, given they didn't even have the right of claim in the first place.
That's right. Not only have they bought my debt, in inverted commas, for whatever they bought it for, they're also out of pocket.
They're out of pocket. And the other thing is, I haven't asked the question, but I'm pretty sure they're not now coming against you anymore, are they? They've gone away.
Yeah, they haven't yet. And if they do, that's my next step, is looking at harassment.
They'd be very stupid, I think, to come back
Yeah,
again.
I think so, yeah.
So even like where it doesn't particularly go to plan, it's still a default win. You still win anyway.
Yep.
And I think that, again, is the message. Just do something, guys. Don't overthink this stuff. Just do something, because you can't lose. We all see what's playing out in the world. And the simple fact of just standing up and saying, you know what? No, I'm not taking this anymore. I am going to do something. And as you go through it, like you're doing, you realize that you actually do have all the power.
Absolutely. That is the biggest thing, is that you suddenly think, nobody's above the law. You remember that line, nobody's above the law. Not that guy sat behind the desk looking down on us, not him, not the solicitor next to me. Nobody's above the law.
And it's such a simple statement. Yeah. And I don't know about you, again, this for me, I've heard that before, right? Before we all got into doing this stuff, but it never really had any meaning. And it's lessened because these big corporations just would do their things and they'd run you over, and you think that doesn't really make any sense until you start doing it. And it's when you start doing it, you realize you've got this power.
Yeah. It's always that the law is used on us.
Yes.
Not used for us. It's not used for us, and we can.
Yeah.
No, we absolutely can.
We're the ones under the law and they're not, and they do what they like, but it's not. It's the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where next for you in your journey? What are you looking into now? Because you're not stopping, are you? You're carrying on.
Well, the first thing I want to do is, because that's the most pressing. I don't think it's time sensitive, but I would like them to be still a bit chafed from losing. And that's, I think, the iPark Services car park company need to answer for perjuring themselves in court. Defamation of character. They said Sean didn't exist in the preliminary hearing. So I had to qualify that I had in fact known him 11 years and that he was my partner. And I had to qualify that he was a genuine witness. So they brought my name into disrepute. They perjured themselves in court. They perverted the course of justice. You gave me that one. And they did. They tried to have me found guilty of a non-crime for something that was a lie anyway. And they perjured themselves to prove it falsely. So I think I'd like to see them.
I think this is really where you level up a lot when you start putting claims together to go and sue people. And we talk about this How to Win in Court course that was developed by an amazing man called Dr. Graves in America. He's 38 plus years experience as an attorney over there. So you're about to join that, aren't you? To start building up the knowledge, the next stage of knowledge building, so you can actually go on the attack and sue these people in their personal capacities.
I'm all over that. That's what I want.
So let me ask you a question. We haven't planned this. This is live, if you like, happening on this recording. Would you be open to maybe charting us having videos, if you like, charting how you go with that? Like what happens as you go through putting that together and actually suing these people?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. We're going to actually have a real case here being put together that we can now start tracking. High level, obviously, we won't go into loads of detail, but we'll go through this right the way to the bitter end. So you guys can see how any of you can do exactly the same stuff that we're talking about right now. And I think that's the main point. So just to wrap this one up, Lulu, have you got any message to any folks watching this right now that are maybe sitting on the fence, umming and ahhing? What would you say?
Start with your DSARs. Keep them really simple, really specific. And then you'll realize that it's them that's on their toes. It's you keeping them on their toes. That I was way too late in coming to understand the power of DSARs. And it was because of your video with, I can't remember, but it was one of your videos talking about DSARs. Get those in early, make them really specific to your request and watch them squirm. It's quite an interesting thing it does make you realize who's wearing the trousers, really.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Yeah. And keep your stuff organized. Get your stuff organized so that you know what. At one point, I had a dining room table that was so filled with bits of paper and notes here and there. sort your notes out at the end of every day of reading or whatever you're doing and get them into order.
Yeah, good filing, definitely a
Good
must.
filing, definitely good filing, and keep a record of what you've said, where you're up to date, because I've actually got about 5 of these. It's just that only 2 of them have come after me. The other 3 haven't yet.
I bet you're waiting eagerly for that, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's snuck and
Yeah.
it's nothing better, guys. And when you've got the knowledge and how to actually hit these people hard, you actually look forward to these things actually playing out because you then have that power. So, Lulu, thank you very much. Actually, guys, just a very quick one. Lulu mentioned DSARs. If you aren't aware of a DSAR, there are other videos on the channel where I talk about them, and perhaps I will put a video together just about them. But Data Protection Act 2018, very simply, you use that to obtain your property, which is your data, which is your name. And then you've got to start using it in terms of how you compile the questions to obtain that data that exposes exactly what's going on. So you use it as a litigation tool. Stop using templates. There's a lot of them out there. If you are, then they know exactly what you're doing. They know that you don't know what you're doing, and they can just basically ignore you. So stop using the templates, do what Lulu's done, and build your comprehension of what's actually going on. And therefore you can craft your own DSARs with your own questions. And actually, let me just ask you that before we sign it off.
Templates were my big problem. And a lot of the people came back and just said,
we all do it.
The template, you're just doing this from a template. We can't take you seriously. It was only when I started sending the DSARs that they started taking it seriously.
There you go. You've heard it there. So stop the templates, guys. Just slow down. Don't feel under pressure when they're saying you've got 14 days to reply or any of that stuff. It's meaningless. Build your knowledge first and then go on the attack when you know a little bit about what you're doing. Take your time. And with that said, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.
Right.
Do you find the legal system overwhelming and wish you had the knowledge and skill sets to control judges, persuade attorneys, and win your case? Well, look no further. Sovereign Empowerment is proud to announce our partnership with Dr. Frederick Graves so that we can bring you the Jurisdictionary Law course, How to Win in Court, your ultimate resource for mastering the courtroom. Unlock powerful case-winning strategies as you learn to control judges like never before. This comprehensive course eliminates guesswork and empowers you to navigate the legal landscape with absolute confidence. With step-by-step instructions, flowcharts, and outlines, you'll have all the tools you need to persuade and control judges in any case or court. Learn from a seasoned attorney with over 40 years of winning experience, who has distilled his expertise into this comprehensive program. Access everything you need in one single package, including sample forms, video seminars, audio clips, and in-depth case-winning classes. Learn at your own pace, anytime, anywhere. Our 24/7 online access allows you to tailor your learning experience to fit your schedule. Access the course on your smartphone, tablet, or computer and become a legal master whenever and wherever you want. Benefit from a suite of powerful tools, including a free online legal research tool, a legal dictionary with common sense definitions, and an exclusive Q&A forum to connect with fellow students and obtain expert guidance. Good people have suffered too long at the hands of power because they just didn't know how to fight back. Now, in a matter of just a few days, you can acquire the tools and knowledge that takes law students years to achieve. Can't afford a lawyer? No problem. With the Jurisdictionary Law course, you'll gain the skills to win your case without expensive legal representation. Alternatively, equip your own legal consult with the tools and tactics to fight effectively on your behalf. Level the playing field and secure your victory. No matter what court, civil or criminal, conquer any courtroom challenge with ease. This step-by-step guidance ensures a quick and straightforward learning experience, empowering you to navigate the legal system with bulletproof confidence. As a testament to your newfound legal expertise, you'll have the opportunity to complete a final exam and receive an honorary law degree upon successful completion of the course. Showcase your achievement and establish yourself as a force to be reckoned with in the legal arena. Dr. Graves believes everyone deserves access to legal knowledge. That's why we offer the Jurisdictionary Law course at an unbeatable price. For less than the cost of a 1-hour legal consultation, you'll gain unlimited access to this complete program for up to 2 full years. Take control of your legal battles without breaking the bank. How to Win in Court has become the most trusted law course worldwide since 1997. Don't miss out on this exclusive opportunity to gain the upper hand in the courtroom. Enroll in the official Jurisdictionary Law course today and unleash your legal power. Click the link in the description below to become legally empowered today.